Coming up, a Sad Styles production.
Hello and welcome. My name is Mikey Aaronworth, signing on to the Sign Off, a Frameworth podcast for yet another week, and we have a very special guest for you today. You may recognize him if you're watching over on YouTube. If you're not, make sure to subscribe. We have a guest that we've had on once before, and to this day, even though it was one of our earliest episodes, remains to be one of the most popular and one of the most, I'd say, fan-engaged episodes that we have. We're joined today, obviously, myself, Mikey Aaronworth. We've got Brian Aaronworth, the president of Frameworth, as well as Rocket, head of Rocket Security, Rocket's Pro Services. He is he's in charge of security and concierge services to the Stars. And if you're not sure why that means he's such a big draw to each of the episodes, it's because he's got some great stories from behind the scenes, in the locker room, in the club, as 50 Cent once notoriously said. So Rocket, thanks so much for joining us once again. How have you been since the last time you were on?
I'm good. Good to be here.
It's good to have you back as well. A lot has happened in the world of hockey since recording this. I mean, by the time this comes out, the playoffs could be over. Hopefully not. You know, we're big fans of Montreal here, not to date the episode too much, but there's a couple big games coming up, hopefully. But one of the major things that we've seen since, and we'll get into some of the questions because we actually did have some fans write in with some questions about, you know, what life is like in the world of security and concierge services. So we'll get to that. But I want to start off because you're very closely linked in a lot of ways to the Toronto Maple Leafs and a lot of their players. With Toronto coming out of the playoffs, early exit, first round, not to get into the way they played as much necessarily, but there was a very strong negative reaction towards some of the players specifically, the team in general, sometimes the management. And I'm sure as someone who's in charge of athlete security, how much does that get on your radar? You know, when someone's tweeting something like, I'm going to fucking kill these, whatever it is, you know, there's a lot of hot air that goes on online, but how much of that gets to your attention and then you have to relay it back to the players?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that was kind of a real concern.
Yeah.
And when you say the Leafs, the other guy I really look after and do security for is Mitch Marner.
Right.
And so right after that final game that they got beat, he's down.
Yeah.
You know, he feels like shit.
He's a human being. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So anyways, I meet him in his driveway because there are people and fans who know where he lives. So we just thought of the best thing that I'll meet him right over at the house there. You know, so I went over to the house and met him there. And of course he showed up and he was, he was down.
Yeah.
They all were, but yeah.
Down,
How long after the game would this have been?
This was like 45 minutes.
Oh, okay.
45 minutes after the game. He got changed and did his press conferences and then came right home. You know, just by himself. You know, he had one of the players that was staying with him. They came together. And it was just so. Anyways, there was a controversy piece that came out later on about him that we can get into later if you want. But so I got him in his house, and I said, "Listen, I'm just going to stay here in the driveway." And there was a few idiots that drove by and yelled obscenities at the house.
That's insane.
Really?
That's insane.
You know, stuff like that. And there was a garbage incident that some guys are fucking around that. So, anyways, I stayed probably till about 6 or 7 in the morning just to make sure that everything was kind of cool. Because in any other city of Winnipeg or Edmonton, you don't have to do that. You know what I mean?
Maybe Montreal, but
yeah, maybe Montreal. They'll turn your house upside.
Now I'm picturing Rocket on a rocking chair on the lawn with a shotgun in your hand and a blanket and a cup of coffee. Is it like what when you say you stayed there till 7:30? You're inside just making sure things.
No,
are okay?
I just stay outside.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just stay in my car on the outside and make it like that it's not. I'm not there to specifically do that.
Right.
You know, because you just
don't assume he doesn't have a shotgun.
No,
in
that's
his hand. This is like Yellowstone, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but it's just like because his girlfriend's there too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they look for their safety and all that. And that's my job. That's what that's what he pays me for.
Now, was it more or less than usual? Because Leafs fans,
it was a little bit more.
A little bit more.
Yeah, it was a little bit more. And later on, the poor kid was taking a beating. And, I've known the kid since he was like yay high. And,
right.
Terrific family and really good kid. And he just didn't.
He didn't deserve that.
Well, he understands that it's the city of Toronto. And
right.
when you sign that big ticket,
yeah,
you're going to be a moving target. He gets all that.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you, the next day, teammates came by over to Mitch's place, and every one of them to the man is like behind that kid 100%.
Right.
And there's just so much that's not out in the public.
Sure.
And I get on. I know so much that the public doesn't know
In terms of his effect on the team, or in terms of
100%. But I can't come on to people and say and voice my opinion of that, because I'm just there to look after him.
Right.
Well, we handle Mitch's memorabilia here at Frameworth, and so I'm pretty in recent years been pretty close with the family, and it's not just Mitch; the whole family is so down because of that, because they don't want to see. I mean, yeah, hey, they take the good with the bad when he's on a roll.
Of course,
they're all smiles and giggles, but when as a parent, when you see your kid taking a shit kicking, it really stings even the family members.
Right.
What's the thing about golf?
Was that the article that was written there? That
Yeah. So what happened? And I'll clear this up because it was like a big sticking point, and it was really nothing. But anyways, so Mitch is a member at this golf course in Toronto, and it's funny, when he came back that night, he had phoned me, and I guess you can go in and go online and put your tee times down,
right?
So there was this thing that came out and had Mitch's name at a tee time for the next day at 3:30 or something, because when he got out of the car, he showed me, he goes, "What is this?" And I didn't even think anything of it. I go, he goes, "I don't even know these guys that they say I'm playing golf with." So I said, "Don't worry about it. I don't know what it is either." Well, the next day I get, like, right off the bat, like early in the morning, Sean Avery, and Aves has been a buddy of ours for years.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So Aves gets on his podcast and says, Mitch Marner really cares. He's got a tee time tomorrow morning.
Oh, Jesus.
At this golf course, and he really cares. So I'm like, what's going on here? So I get on the phones right away. So I look at Avery's his tweet first, and yeah, it's exactly what he says. So I called Mitch's agent, and I said, "Hang on, what's going on here?" So under further, investigating into everything, I found out, because I phoned the golf course, and I'm like, "What's going on here? You've caused some problems." So I found out that anybody that's a member there can go online and book the tee times.
Right.
Well, these two 13-year-old kids got into their dad's, they got into his thing. And so they just, as a joke, said, "Hey, let's put our names down and we'll play with Mitch Marner." Okay? So that was online. So I guess another member went online and saw this and
took it seriously.
Screenshot. And he's a member or a really good friend of Sean Avery's. And he sent the screenshot to Avery.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
So I finally call Avery. I've known Sean for a long time. And I said, "Aves, what are you doing here? It's like, buddy, I've been with him. I've been with him since the day since he left the ice.
Yeah.
Pretty well, And I said, he wasn't playing golf. And he's like, "Rocket, I got pictures of it. I'm going to get him all summer long. I'm going after him." I'm going, "Aves," I go, "why didn't you call me?" I go, I do his security. Why didn't you call me and ask me?
How about doing your due diligence before you
Or how about not shitting on a guy who, even if he is playing golf...
Well, let's get to the point, is it's true. He can do whatever he wants.
Exactly.
Right.
You know what I mean? He can do whatever he wants. And I'll guarantee you, that kid did not have a golf on his mind at all when he came back to that house.
No.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And I saw him for the next 72 hours straight. So I know he wasn't golfing at all.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's not Mitch Marner's makeup.
Right.
He just, that's the farthest thing in his mind. But Aves, so it got into big controversy, and then all the, podcasts and other radio shows, so there was two in particular. I'm not going to get into who they were, but there was two guys that host a podcast that were really ripping at Mitch. So I had enough.
Yeah.
And I DM'd them, and I let them have it.
Huh.
And I guess they phoned Sportsnet, and they were like, "Hey, you got to tell Rocket to back off. We're scared. He's going to come after us." I said, "You're fucking right. You should be. I will come after you."
It's amazing. You get the keyboard warriors who are willing to say. I mean, granted, they're on a podcast, so it's probably a bit more public, but especially, and we've had this with the amount of success that the Sign Off this podcast is seeing, where every so often you'll get one of those comments, and it's a trolling comment. And I think in the person's mind, they don't realize that there's a real human being reading it. The number of times you reach out to the person who has made the comment and just give them a slight answer or a response, and they turn around and say, hey, I was just kidding around. I love you guys. Keep doing it. Like, the number of people who are giving Mitch shit for golfed or not having golfed, I bet you they're big fans. And they just don't clue into the fact, and this relates back to what we were talking about on the last podcast, that there's a human being with real emotions behind the athlete that they're trying to interact with. And as soon as they have that moment of humanity unveiled, now all of a sudden it's just an interaction they feel like a dick for doing it.
Well, see, Mikey, but here's what I'm worried about. I'm not worried about the comment that those guys bring out. I'm worried about the 50,000 followers, the 50,000 idiots that follow these guys, and they get ideas from it.
Yes.
Like some of the stuff that comes out of out of their heads, like, oh, Mitch was doing this. Like, dude, no,
Where are you getting
this from?
Yeah.
But that's the way they can get engaged with, and be someone that they're not.
That's right.
Right.
I mean, I have a real tough time going to hockey games now live because I sit in the crowd and I hear people around me, oh, Austin Matthews did this and that. And I'm like, where do these people come up with this stuff?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I can't go and grab the guy and say, dude, that's not what happened. He wasn't there.
You know what? Here's a good example of that. So Troy Crosby, Sid's dad, he loves to sit in the stands. He doesn't like to sit up in a private box. He likes to be part of the crowd, but very inconspicuously. Now he's getting more well-known. But I've sat with him in Florida watching a game, and you hear the comments around, and you can just look at him cringing. Obviously Florida fans. And so now he's forced to kind of sit upstairs because, one, he's too recognizable, and two, he just doesn't need he'd never want to go to Philly and sit.
No. Speaking of that specifically, I had years ago, there was a game where Pittsburgh was playing in Toronto, and we had gone as a family, you and myself, Dad, to the game, and with the Crosbys, and we were kind of switching seats. They were in one place, we were in the other, and we were just kind of swapping out as, like, for each period we just changed so that we could sit with other people for the games. And I think in the second period or something like that, I was sitting with Troy and a couple other people, and Troy was to my right, and the guy to my left was taking chirping to another level, like very personal, abrasive things to the point of getting whatever it is, nothing to do with hockey, all to do with Sid on a personal level. And same thing, Troy's sitting there, he hears it, he's cringing, he's not saying anything. As the period ends, we get up and I say, hey, Troy, go meet my parents. I just got to collect my things over here. And the guy goes to get by me, and I stop him, not in an aggressive way, just to say, like, hey, man, I know that you think you're just having fun right now, but the guy sitting beside me is Sydney's dad, and he hears everything you're saying. And the guy, instead of being like, oh, I don't give a fuck, whatever, this and that, turned beet red and is like, I'm so sorry. I love Sydney, but, like, this is just what I say. And I'm like, you got to keep in mind, especially sitting where you're sitting, there are people all around you that you don't know are hearing these things.
And you know
right?
what happens, Mikey, to be honest with you? If you look at those people, I guarantee you, none of them have ever played the game before.
Yeah.
Guys who play the game don't chirp stuff like that.
Right.
There's just a ton of respect because you got Troy, that a hockey guy knows that, hey, what a parent goes through, even to get them to that level.
Right.
And then you think it would go away at that level, but it doesn't.
Right.
It gets harder for them.
Yeah.
And those guys that are hackling, I'll guarantee if you ask them if they wanted a picture with Troy, they'd be all for it.
100%. 100%.
So it's the guys that have never played the game. And that's a big pet peeve with a lot of players, because there was a bunch of Mitch's teammates after the series that I went out with, where we were hanging out. And I had to tell Mitch about these two guys that had ripped in from a radio show. And every other player to it said, good for you, Rocket.
Yeah.
Those guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they get it. They live in Toronto, and everybody, when you sign a big ticket, like I said, you got a target. They get all that. But you know what? Enough.
Yeah.
Enough, because, like I said, it's the 50,000 clowns that are watching these people. So when they go get gas, someone's just been in there and said, oh, there's, so-and-so, and what an idiot he is.
Right.
But you lose respect for the guys in the media, too, that do that. And you mentioned Sean Avery and a friend and all that stuff, but you called him and told him that this was not the case. Mm-hmm. And he still insisted on going after him. or at least do your due diligence, phone the golf course, because I know exactly what happened because we can do it at my club. You can phone in and book and I can say today I'm playing with Rocket and Sidney Crosby and whatever, and somebody takes a screenshot of that, and next thing you know, everybody thinks Sidney Crosby's in town,
100%,
which is ridiculous. So
and I phoned the head pro there, and I said because Mitch's dad and I talked about it, and at the beginning I didn't think it was a big controversy, but then it started to get legs, so I phoned the pro there and I said, you know what, this is a real prestigious club here in Toronto. You better have a better security system. If you're getting 13-year-old kids in there booking times,
right?
If it's X amount of dollars to join your golf course and it's an expensive one, you better protect people,
right?
So, and then that's what I said. It started getting legs, and I said, "You better shut it down right now, too."
Yeah,
to the pro and all.
I'm sure the father of those kids got a stern talking to by the golf course after that. Hopefully, so change your password.
Well,
I know I could guess my dad's password on every single platform he's on, so I would know how to book myself with Sidney Crosby and Rocket.
But in fairness to the kids, they were just having some fun, and
I
I don't think there was
idea.
anything malicious to it.
it.
But hey, let's put our name down with Mitch because we know he plays at the course.
Well, that's
and he
what
probably would have thought that was funny in the middle of the season.
Yes.
But in the middle of the golf season.
So Rocket, I want to ask you, because the past year and a half, a lot of what you do for your job in the world of athlete security and concierge services has you accompanying these athletes to physical locations like a club or a bar or a restaurant and making sure nothing goes wrong. For the past year and a half, there hasn't been much of that, with COVID. What changed for you in terms of the way that you interacted with athletes and did your job as a result of COVID? And how do you expect that to change in the next month or so now that people are going out again?
The biggest one was the traveling. What I used to do is especially if a player got traded to a new city, I would go down kind of to the new city and I would scout around for restaurants and, a car service.
Sure.
Maybe they want a chef and stuff like that. So I thought, Phil, it better be hands down, and go see a couple of games too and stuff like that. So what I would do rounds of, and I'd always pick the warmer places to go to, and so that stopped, obviously, completely stopped,
right?
I still got enough guys though that, the bubble was a little different because they couldn't really do anything, but I still had to arrange to get food sent down to them because they really didn't want to eat hotel food all the time. They wanted to eat healthy.
Then you got to go to other cities and pick up their cars when they get traded.
So that wasn't happening. But the car service, the shipping of cars was an essential service.
Right.
So I got guys' cars still shipped down to them where they were,
right,
or shipped back. The bubble was a different atmosphere because it was only Edmonton and Toronto. So I just had to. It was more like guys wanting proper meals. They wanted to get their athletic therapists and their own guys
for sure,
that type of thing.
So but even then, we couldn't even get to the player. Like we had players that were in town at hotels, and we couldn't even get our stuff signed.
The bubble,
it should have been easier, not harder.
Bubble's a bad name for it. It was a dome. It was like it was hard
prison.
Seriously.
It was prison. Yeah. What it was.
Yeah,
these guys like to go to their exercise for an hour.
Yeah,
wow. At BMO Field and stuff like that. So that was the biggest thing that. The communication was obviously still there.
Yeah.
That's my guard dog.
If you can hear the dog in the background, we're going to get the blinds pulled down a little bit. He's sitting out there. If you're on YouTube, you may even see him waiting. Yeah, you can see him at the window there as my dad pulls the blinds down. If not, you'll have heard him, and we're shutting him out now. Yeah, we got to keep him hungry for your security services. So I wanna then move on to a little bit of we talked about how the online world has changed and shifted a little bit, and how that adds so much more to your plate because you're dealing with 50,000 unseen threats as opposed to 20 people in a bar or a club. What's changed in terms of your needs and your interaction with people? Are you often monitoring people's social medias to see who says what? And
I have to.
You have to.
I
right?
have to. We have codes that we have I got like fake accounts in my own name that I follow people,
right,
and stuff like that, just to see their activity. But it really, there's a lot of brave people behind a keyboard.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? But you always have to think there's one or two clowns out there, especially down in Toronto.
Yeah.
And I, and I would say to Mitch even, I remember one time, Mitch, had a picture of him and his girlfriend and his dog, take a picture in front of his house, So I phoned him he put it online. I phoned him like 15 minutes later, and I said, take that down.
Yeah.
What's wrong? And I said, because your address is in the back of the background over the top of your door.
Oh, wow.
So if I wasn't keeping an eye
you
on
wouldn't have
things
noticed.
in the day, and noticed it 3 or 4 hours later,
Yeah.
People would have started showing up there.
Yeah.
They would have.
Yeah.
So keeping the players' privacy is huge.
Sure.
It's
sure.
really, that's probably the biggest thing. So yeah, I'll go online and see if people are trolling them.
And then let's talk about more of the in-person stuff, because we're getting back into it. One of the things that people loved on the last episode was some of the intimate looks at what goes on in the perspective of someone who's trying to watch a bar or a club or a social interaction from like a third-person view and just see everything that's happening. Is there any part of you that's having like cold feet about getting back into that world, about the bars and clubs? Because that brings a whole new level of issues, is my first question. And the second question is, why don't you throw us another story, something that you didn't tell on the first one, because those always go over really well. Something that happened in a bar or a club or even just a social interaction that fans may be surprised to hear actually took place.
We'll get into your first question. With the restrictions, especially here in Toronto, are really, 4 to a table. Now it's 6 to a table. So I had a few guys. Don't forget, I haven't had many guys that come back yet. Sure. Because they didn't want to do the quarantine.
Right.
Some of them now have got letters from the NHL. They can come back now as of Monday, I guess, the rules
are changing, yeah.
But when it comes to the restaurants and all that sort of stuff, it's like 4 at a table. So I had a couple of guys that wanted, they had, I got 8 guys. I said, well, that's okay. We'll get 2 groups of 4 tables.
Sure.
Right. And then the owners of the bars would kind of move the tables together or keep them apart, but side by side.
Yeah.
So that,
kind of probably keeps it a little bit easier for you. Everyone has to stay in if someone comes and approaches the table, it's a red flag for a variety of reasons. Yeah, there's no getting under the radar.
But the problem is getting the result now, because now you're down to 50% of your capacity for your patio, and nobody wants to be that person that goes.
Name me a restaurant that doesn't want 8 players.
Yeah,
in there,
that's true. That's true.
It's always good for businesses. Soda.
Some of them were going in January. Don't kid yourself. I won't name places, but we had to drop guys off and behind alleyways to go in back
behind
doors.
the scenes.
Yeah,
So tell us then. Obviously now it's a little bit more difficult for things to go down without you noticing before it's going to happen. But you mentioned a story on the last episode, and if you're listening and you haven't heard the last episode, go back, because there's a bunch of good stories. One ends up with Rocket's fingers up a guy's nose, and we're not going to explain how that happened, but that was a fun one. Anything else? Any other stories that stick out in your mind of interactions that you've had in a social sphere with the players?
The kids watch this show.
There's an explicit warning on this one. Yeah.
I have one that was really kind of crazy. It wasn't funny and all that, but it was. I had a player one time that had this girl. They were at a club, and he had just come into Toronto for the weekend. It was an award show.
Right.
That's as far as I'll go with that.
Sure.
And so, anyways, he was with this girl, and he picked this girl up. So I said, "Well, I better go with you." So anyways, I go with the girl, and we go to the hotel, into the lobby, and I send them on their way. So I go with them to find out the room, and boom, so they're in. So I'm downstairs, and I'm waiting, and all of a sudden, I see coming out of the elevator is the girl on her own. I'm thinking, oh, this is good, my buddy Smith. But her dress is all ripped, and she's screaming out loud, he raped me. And I'm like, oh no, what's going on here? So she runs over to hotel security. He goes, she's freaking out. Now, I can't really hear if she yelled the player's name, because I don't think the player even said who he was.
Right.
You know what I mean? So anyways, I hear her screaming, yelling, her shirt's all ripped. So I whip up the elevator and go see my player. So I rap on the door, and he goes, what's up? I go, dude, what went on here? What's going on? He goes, what do you mean? He goes, dude, that girl just ran out of here. He goes, I told her to get out of here. She wanted me to buy her drugs. And I said, she wanted to buy her drugs. I said, okay, fine. So I didn't tell him anything more than that, you know? So I go downstairs. So I whip over to security. This girl's still frantically free. She goes, she knows him. She's pointing at me.
Right.
He knows who she is. So I pull the security. I go, what's up? She said, oh, she's saying that, this guy, he wanted a piece of ass from her, and she said no, and he tried to rip her clothes off. I said, really? I said, well, that's not the story I'm getting. He goes, well, we got to bring the cops in and all that. So I'm like, oh. So I bring the cops in. Luckily, I knew one of the cops. So he said, Rocket, it's 3 a.m, buddy. You should be home. I said, I get you, And so I started talking to him, and I said, hey, before we go all freak out here, I don't know about this girl, but let's get some security cameras out and let's start having a look.
Sure.
So we did. So anyways, to make a long story short, we watched, all of us going in type thing, and she went upstairs. She forgot one thing. There was a camera in the elevator.
Oh.
And when she came into the elevator, she started ripping her own.
No way.
So then, the coppers, we all saw that type thing. And so they said, well, we should charge her. And I said, no.
No, because that's going
That's
to end up the wrong way too, right?
Yeah. I said, no, just let it go away. I said, I'm not even going to tell my player till later. I don't want, him coming down right now and getting stares at, because there might be still people in here that saw him go up with her. I want no part of any of that. So I waited till, I don't know, early 7 o'clock in the morning, and I knew he had a flight to catch. That's what it was. So I got him, and I sat him down first, and I said, bud, there was some bullshit there, And, but, there again, if I'm not there, this whole thing just escalates. And then, and this day and age, luckily social media wasn't huge when this happened.
Sure.
This is a while back now.
Yeah.
But if social media,
one person in the lobby takes a photo.
Well, here's the problem too, Brian, is that security guys, they can still shot, your video.
Oh,
and
right.
send it out. Oh yeah, there he is going up in the elevator with this girl.
Similar to like the member at the golf club for Mitch
100%.
screen capping. Right. It's so much easier to get out there.
It's just that, and that goes on to another point of how the actual fan finds out about stuff.
Sure.
It's crazy.
Sure.
I had to drop off. I remember Austin and I used to drop him off at the airport, and we used to get a flight at like 6 a.m.
Austin Matthews?
Yeah. He'd go back to Scottsdale. I'll never forget one time. So I picked him up. It was 6 a.m. in the morning, Toronto airport. No problem. He's getting a flight home to Scottsdale. And I pull up, and there's like 7 kids out there with jerseys.
Amazing, isn't it?
Just all ready for it.
I looked at him, and I go, what? Who does this? How do these guys find out? And then after investigating for a couple of days afterwards, I find out that, you have to have your manuscript of who's going to be on the flight.
Right.
So it's some lady taking that, and she says to her son, oh, do you know who's on the flight tomorrow morning? On the manifest.
We talked about this on a previous show. Every time Wayne Gretzky comes to town, stays at a certain hotel, he comes in, they're ready for him. The hotel's ready for any of these players. They know that when the team arrives, when the player arrives, who's going to be.
Yeah.
They keep them outside. These guys are usually pretty respectful, and that's why Wayne will go out and sign a few things for them, because they keep their distance and they don't harass them. The hotel does a really good job. That's down one of the big ones.
The Ritz usually,
And they do a pretty good job of keeping track of these guys.
Yeah.
But I know of an incident too, and this happened to a certain Canadian team. I'm not going to mention any names or something, but there was this kid who was I think he's in Calgary. I got the story third hand, but there's a kid in Calgary, and he dresses up in goalie equipment all the time. Okay, and he's got the Leaf jersey on and things like that, and so the kid, everybody knows him, and he just knows that the teams are going to be there and what hotels are staying at,
right.
And from what I understand, because I talked to some of the kid's a good kid. I found out this year that security, the hotel or the team or whatever, got rid of this kid. Told this kid couldn't stick around. That he was a nemesis or something like that.
Oh, no.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, through Rockets Pro Services, what we're going to do, we're going to find that kid. I'm gonna go to Calgary one day, and I'm going to find out who the kid is.
Oh, that's great.
I'm going to get him set up from top to bottom of stuff that he needs.
Please, listening to
You
the
know
podcast.
what I mean?
There you go. Yeah. If you are. Or if you know the kid, reach out to us, sign off pod at Frameworth.com.
But there's a kid there that is 100% harmless.
Yeah.
There's no way he's got a gun underneath his hockey
Well, I mean,
equipment.
that just ties everything together, because we started talking about social media, right? And how sure, there are 50,000 people out there. For the most part, it's harmless, but you do have to treat everyone with a little bit of distance, because that one person out of 50,000 can be bad. We then talked about the incident in the hotel where the woman claimed to have been assaulted, and it turns out she wasn't. And now we talk about this kid who the hotel thought could have been a problem, but this kid wasn't. And all this comes down to a limited number of people who give the decent fans and decent human beings a bad rap, because we all know there are incidents when someone tweets online where they're being malicious and they're serious about it. We all know, unfortunately, there are cases where an athlete will have a bad interaction with a fan and do the wrong thing, and the assault claim will be real. We all know that sometimes there will be a little kid who just is not there to get an autograph for an autograph hound, is there for their own purposes. But in these limited cases, it just makes, I guess, your job and the jobs and the lives of the athletes that much more difficult, because who do you trust?
Here's an interesting story. I mentioned this before, but I had breakfast with Wayne Gretzky and his brother-in-law in Edmonton before the Winter Classic out there. And we were in the restaurant, and a kid would come in, Mr. Gretzky, can I have your autograph? And he'd sign an autograph. And another one 5 minutes later. They were very respectful, one at a time. They came across. And about the fifth kid to come, Wayne says, no, I'm busy right now, which is really unusual. I said to him after the kid left, I said, why would you sign 4 for that kid?
Yeah.
And not for the 6th kid or 5th kid? And he goes, that kid I've signed 5 autographs for already, and he's just making a living out of it, and he's not here just for...
Wow.
The players are savvy to this, right,
For sure.
Rocket? They know who's who.
I was with Paul Coffey one night. This is way back when he was in Detroit.
Yeah.
So after a game, we went to the parking lot, and there was these kids that were running autographs. And Paul, that's the first time I got introduced to it. We were like, I don't know, Coffey's 25.
Yep.
We were out there. And it was these kids, and I was saying, I go, he goes, I'm not signing anything. Why? He goes, because I signed 5 things for that kid in the last 2 days.
Oh, wow.
That kid got me in on the way into the arena today.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, I started watching it. Now I have experience in this, because this is what I see. And this is where you guys come in, the fact, too, that I've seen this happen. So I've seen a kid standing there with an Edmonton Oilers jersey. I'm not going to say where we were. I was out with McDavid.
Yeah.
Okay. And he was, he was at the BioSteel camp.
Right.
Okay. So they were letting all the fans in and stuff like that, which was really cool. BioSteel was great that way.
Yep.
Kids had a great time.
BioSteel, your drink
got,
in the forefront of the video there.
They got really close to the play. It was great.
Yeah.
But what would happen? So I would have to get Connor in and out of the building all the time, right? Which is not a problem because Connor's so easy to work with.
Right.
He's the best. So, but this one kid. So what they would do, I found out later, because I said to Connor, "Don't sign that kid." He says, "What?" I said, "Just don't sign that kid." I found out that his dad would bring him every morning with a brand new Oilers jersey.
Oh, wow.
So he'd get Connor to sign that one, right? And then he'd go home. The next day he'd show up again with a new Oilers one on and get Connor to sign.
I'm surprised to say he layered them. Took one off.
One off and then the other. Yeah,
I'm surprised it's not from Frameworth. The guy wasn't coming here.
Yeah, that's why I have so many Edmonton Oilers jerseys on me. Yeah,
I think it was little Mikey. When
yeah,
he
it was.
That age. That's who
It was. I was just pretending to be a little 14-year-old
But it's
kid.
the parents, right? So they get the jersey signed. So I would, walk out with, like, let's say it was Connor, and I would say, nah. I would call them pros. That's what I would basically say is, don't, it's okay, move it on. What I'm saying? And then I'd go right up to the parent, and I'd say, "Bud, I don't even know who I am, but I figured you out. I got you all figured out.
Yeah.
So don't even bother trying again."
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And of course they would.
Yeah, of course
they would try again.
I mean, we see that as the boldness of some people, even at some of the events which are very like high ticket items, who come in and it's very explicit, guys. You have, like, for example, we have like we had the Wayne Gretzky Gala here at the Frameworth showroom a while ago. I think this one specifically was for, though, we had Josh Donaldson here at the Frameworth Arena with a couple other Toronto Blue Jays at the time, and it was a pretty high priced item, black tie event almost. And you come in, we get you, photos with everyone. They end up being signed. You get a signed jersey, this and that. That's all part of coming, and you can spot in the crowd people who have other jerseys or other items, and you'll go up to them in advance and say, hey, I know you've got the pen and all that, but we're not doing that. You will get your package, but we're trying to keep this as informal as possible. And they say, oh, okay, no worries. And then you see them in line again with it. And then all of a sudden they break through the line and they're coming through like the back area of where the player is. We should have Rocket there to prevent them from doing
Next
it.
time.
But this is all to say, like, this is not us trying to say, feel bad for these athletes. Isn't this so bad that they have to deal with it? It's just saying when you have a bad interaction with an athlete, it's not because they dislike you for liking them. It's that they kind of have to have their back up a little bit because they are constantly being, maybe taken advantage of isn't the right word, but it does apply here. So it's not to take it personally. It's just to know if you go about it the right way. And this was a big theme in the first episode. Yeah. They'll respect you and you respect them and you go on your merry way. But if you try to do a little bit too much or they just have a bad day, try to understand that they deal with this all the time and it doesn't always go well.
Yeah, the NHL alumni brought out a whiskey. I don't know if you guys saw it.
Yeah.
But of all the older players. Anyways, Dave Keon was one of the guys.
Yeah.
And we did a public signing with Dave Keon at a liquor store just on Yonge Street. Okay. Same to what you're saying. All of a sudden, all these people show up with old sweaters.
Yeah.
The thing was, you had to buy a bottle of Dave's whiskey, and then you'd meet him, and he'd sign it. Dave Keon is probably one of the nicest individuals you'll ever want to meet in your life.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to him in the Ballard days and all that sort of stuff.
Sure.
He is one of the nicest guys you'll ever want to meet. But he doesn't want to talk about the Ballard era and stuff.
Yeah, fine.
So we're instructed. Dave said to me, said, Rocket, if anything, hey, I don't sign any jerseys. I'm not signing any of that sort of stuff. I just want to sign, and I don't want anybody asking me about
the Ballard days, yeah.
Unless you want to talk about Dickie Duff and stuff.
Yeah.
Sure. But not any controversy with him. So it was great. Soon enough, so I go, well, we're in the little room. I said, you guys ready? They open up this wall, and there's, thousands of people out front. And most of them were older guys. Yeah. Most of them were older guys.
It's the era, right?
That's right. But what they would do, too, they brought their kids because they had all this paraphernalia for Dave to sign. So guys were grabbing up bottles left, right, and center, but they also wanted other things signed, too. So I said to Dave, I will be the bad guy here. You know what I'm saying? So I had to tell people outright, you can't. That's no good. And, well, we've waited here for 8 hours. Well, that's not my fault.
Yeah.
On the pace it said, get a bottle signed by Dave Keon.
Yes.
So I don't think Dave was kind of called a prick then for that type of thing, but you never know. There was probably one bad egg. But
you need the guy up front.
Yes.
We've done card shows
so
where
many
we brought
signings
guys in, and they literally, okay, so it's a part of the business. So those people are paying for an autograph. They need their certificate. They're collectors. It's the right way to go about doing it. They want something authentic. So, but they'll always try and sneak in something else, and they didn't pay for it.
Right. And then they get mad when they get called out on it, and that's the thing. But here's an important distinction that I want to make. We've done a ton of those signings, similar to what you're talking about, and you're always going to have people who do that. But to the credit of everyone else in the line, when you call them out on it and they put their back up, other people in the line understand the majority of people understand the rules. And when someone else tries to get away with it, they're on your side. They're not on the side of the person who's trying to get it. So this is not us saying, again, the people who show up at signings are just in it to get whatever signed. That is the minority. And the majority of people who do it are good people who are just there for a good time to meet someone they respect. And then you have these bad apples who just kind of come in. And
I've been doing this such a long time now that I know the autograph hounds.
Yeah.
I know exactly who they are. I've had a couple of them over at my place for dinner.
Right.
One of the kids is a really good kid. He's from England, and he goes to every rock concert. And I got a repertoire.
Just make sure into the microphone, yeah.
So, but
you know what? Not to take a shot, like the players also appreciate the autograph hounds are an important part of the industry.
Oh, absolutely.
Like people say to me, "Oh yeah, I see all those people. They're taking money out of your pocket, out of the players' pockets." No, they're not. They're creating a business environment where, look, they establish the value. Some of them get things for free. They want to wait outside for 2 hours to get a $50 autograph or even a $500 autograph. All the more power to them.
This is
Nothing wrong with that.
Brian.
As long as they do it the right way.
Right.
As long as they do it the right way. And so, like I said, I've known so many of these kids now that let's say we're doing a big event like the alumni dinner.
Right.
Okay. Now, the alumni dinner, the guys have to go in one door. So I know all the autograph hounds are out in front. So a lot of them I know on a first name basis now. So I'll just say to them, okay, guys, you line up on this wall. You know, everybody will get it. He'll sign. Everybody, you know, whoever it's coming in, I'll let you know if they don't want to sign, because that's my job, is to ask guys
Sure.
when they're coming in. Gary Bettman comes in. I said, Gary, you know.
Just make sure.
Yeah. Gary, you're not, obviously he won't sign. Like, he would talk to people, but I don't think he really signs.
I've never
don't
seen
know.
him.
People,
really
do
sign.
people ask Bettman for his
They'll
autograph?
ask
Oh,
for
yeah,
it,
they
sure.
would ask. They would ask for sure.
They'll say, yeah, it's on the puck. Just go buy a puck. My autograph.
It's on every puck. Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, but so a lot of the kids are, respectful to that. But so I'll line them up, and you'll guarantee there's one or two that'll break the line and try to be the first up to the player and get in the player's face.
Yeah.
You know, and I think I brought this up, on an earlier podcast, the fact that sometimes the player gets startled.
Oh, yeah.
Running at him to get an autograph.
Right.
You don't know. You don't know if that's a pen in his hand. You really don't know.
Fair.
Hey, so you got a few guys coming into town now as the summer starts wearing down, and a lot of them like to go golfing, and you can set that up for them, and you go out golfing with some of them too. We got to get out and play one time, but you got some thing like you've got relationships with all the golf courses and those people. So when the guys come in and say, I want to play a really good course, most courses are pretty amenable to having, even private courses.
Yeah.
Will say, hey, that's something that you have to.
Well, yeah, I do that a lot, but it's harder now.
Yeah.
It's harder now because of COVID. The private courses have just had members only.
Yeah,
They just really don't, they're not letting guests.
Even guests.
They're not allowing guests. So the fact is that all my players really go as guests, but that's kind of like dried up. I call it the Nazem Kadri Open. Naz wants to play every single day.
We actually went out the other day and played Eagle's Nest, and that's open, a great track, and the guys, I'm sure, and I'm sure that a lot of the guys like to play that.
Yeah, we used to take guys there all the time.
Yeah,
we used to take them there all the time. But even they came back to us because they used to give us a really good deal up there for years. And they came back to us and said, because of COVID, it's full price. Everybody pays.
See, one of the problems with that, we did, it was a beautiful course, but it's expensive to play on, and more expensive is paying for the balls that you lose on that course. Oh my God. I went through 24 balls. Like, how many?
I got it for you. Here's what. I got a phone call today a while back, from Mitch Marner's brother, Chris.
Yep.
He said, Rocket, I'm so bored with this, but I got to find something to do. I think I found what to do. So what's that? He goes, I'm going to go find golf balls. Find golf balls and clean them up, and I'm going to go sell them. He said, do you know the guys at the Eagles Nest? I said, yeah. He goes, can you call them for me? I said, absolutely. So I called the guy at the Eagles and said, hey, I got this guy. I'm not going to say who it is. I got this guy who wants to see, and he goes, I don't care. Well, I'll all he wants. This is near the end of the winter. Chris sends me a videotape. About 6 hours later, he must have 5 or 6,000 golf balls in a great big bag. Him and his girlfriend, they had nothing to do, so he went out and hunted for golf balls one day. I said, well, that's a great little business for you.
Honestly.
Why not?
And they're all people who are playing Eagles Nest have some good balls to lose.
They're all
too.
Pro Vs.
Yeah.
You know what? I got a dozen out there between my kids and myself. And you know who else you used to do that is Walter Gretzky.
Yeah, that's right.
Walter Gretzky loved to go, and it's hard to play golf with him because he'd spend half the time looking for golf balls. Yeah, and it was funny. But another story, we were talking about autographs, and the same guys wanting to get autographs all the time. And
right.
I remember coming out of Gretzky's restaurant with Wayne and his dad, and we had some lunch down there, and Wayne's dad was insistent that everybody got an autograph from him. He'd not only take autographs, give everybody an autograph till they were finished, but photos, and make sure they got the right angle on the photo. But when he came out with Wayne's going, oh God, here we go. And his dad, God bless him, would make him stand and do the autographs, and Wayne would jump into the car because I was taking him to the airport, and Wayne's dad was like, get back out there. There's still people out there. He said, Dad, that same guy's gone back and forth. He's had a binder of stuff. He goes back to the car and get another binder. He said, doesn't matter. They got to make a living too. And his dad was like that with him. It'd drive Wayne crazy because he'd make him sign every autograph.
But they're old school.
Yeah.
Paul Coffey will tell you the story about his dad, like saying the same thing in a way. He said, you stand out there and you sign all those kids' autographs because that was you one day.
Right.
Yeah.
You were out
Right.
there waiting for one of your role models.
Right.
And he waited around and signed for you.
And the granddaddy of them all was Bobby
Bobby
Hull.
Hull, yeah.
Bobby Hull would never leave a card show until everybody in line got it, and he'd keep the whole card show open.
Well, because he's also not just grabbing a photo and signing it. He's having a conversation. He's getting to know you. By the end of it, he knows your third child's middle name and the birthday.
Obviously, I love the players of today, but as of today, their signature is just a scratch. Whereas you look at the older guys, all the guys in the alumni, like Yvonne Cornway,
Yeah.
who has
Beautiful
a long name. His signature, you can read it.
Every
Yeah.
letter.
You know,
Yeah.
and my guys, as you guys have seen before, when the guys do a signing for you, it's just scratch, get out of here, get my money and get out of here.
Feels like the volume is probably just so much higher too.
Well, yeah, they're asked so many more. I mean, they're sitting down for 3 hours signing.
Yeah.
And so, even me, I mean, I always joke with the players that you're complaining about signing autographs you're getting paid for. I said, every time I sign my name, it's on the bottom of somebody's paycheck and I'm losing money. And it's just a scratch now.
yeah.
We were out one night. I was a certain player. I'm not going to say who it is. We were out going into a bar one night, him and I, and he had a few in him. He was in one pretty good. Anyways, this kid came up to him with a puck. He goes, hey, can you sign my puck? Can you sign my puck? So anyways, he signs the puck, gives it back to the kid, and the kid yells about, fuck you. And he grabbed the puck and he threw the puck down the street. So what is all like? He goes, I signed Mickey Mouse on the puck.
That's too funny.
Yeah. So,
That is amazing.
Even players have to have fun with some of that
You
stuff.
got it. You absolutely have to. We're running a little low on time. I want to ask one question because we talk a lot about hockey players, obviously, because that is a lot of your business. But you also had a ton of experience working with musicians, bands, that sort of thing. What is the major difference, the one main difference between working athlete security and concierge services for a well-known band across the world or a player or a team?
Bands get better drugs, I think. There's more pure, from what I understand.
From what I understand, yeah.
Well, I was just going to bring that up too, because you talk about the guys going to bars and you're with the guys in the bars, but you have to stay completely sober on all of
Right.
that, especially if anything happens.
Well, I don't drink.
No, yeah.
I don't drink or I don't do drugs. I haven't drank in 25 years. Once I started getting into this business, that was one of the things that I did.
Rocket, what is it like to not always have a hangover? I've always wondered that.
I said, there's a problem with people that don't drink because when they get up in the morning, that's the best they're going to feel all day.
Yeah. I heard that from someone. That was W.C. Fields or
Yeah, it
something,
was a
wasn't it?
great
It was a
line.
good
Amazing.
drunk guy that said,
Amazing.
Yeah, I feel bad for you because when you wake up, you feel that way.
That's the
I
best
get better
thing.
because I get better and better as the day goes on.
That's perfect.
But rock stars want to be hockey players. Hockey players want to be rock stars.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. Post Malone, I met Post a few times. He's a big, huge hockey fan.
Yeah.
You know,
Also,
So
everything you hear is he's one of the nicest human beings.
they all
I've ever
want to
met.
meet one another. I mean, let's face it, Gord Downey and the Hip were the
Yeah,
were
yeah.
the masterminds for
Yeah.
that. They always were hockey friendly.
Yeah.
They always wanted guys to
yeah.
hang out and stuff like that. So, you know what? To be really honest with you, to answer your question, there's not really much of a difference.
Okay. Cool.
They're both from where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
both respectful towards me.
Great.
I've had people come up and said, "I hear that guy in a band is an idiot," and I said, "Well, he's not to me.
Yeah.
You know what? He's great with me." That type of thing.
Yeah.
And, I saw Madonna rip into this guy one day. Like rip into him hard, and then we're walking out, and she said, "How are you today, Rocket?" You know what I mean? So. But
I think about the number of times I'm just in a bad mood, and I'm like, if everyone could know that about me, like I, you have one bad interaction with one person, and that's what an entire segment of the population now knows you for, is for one bad day. That seems like it's.
But it's
holding
all
people
the
to-
same thing because I know if I'm with a client, with a player, and they're in a bad mood, we just don't talk.
Yeah.
I don't say anything to them.
Yeah.
I let them talk first.
Yeah.
Right. I got a player who would just get in the car and I'd pick him up, like I'd go get him at the airport type thing, and he'd be in a bad mood and he wouldn't say a word from the airport to the, to where I dropped him off. You know, even when I said, "Where's my money?"
Still didn't say
talk.
anything.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to give you the final word because we've had now your the tied for the lead of number of appearances on this podcast, with the exception of my dad.
Well, I
myself,
know why,
obviously.
if I can interrupt you, because
Yes.
I saw one of your guests that you had on before, Jance. So
And this I want to give you the opportunity to get the final word. That's what I want to give. We're going to lead off with your message to Brad Jansen because he had some words for you in the beginning, and we got to give you a chance to rebut.
So it's all right, Jance. We'll compare my viewers to your viewers.
Okay.
And then enough said. Your turn.
Oh yeah, so he's just going to go now. These guys are going to Brad and Rocket are going to go to the players and say, "Could you retweet about the podcast?" So
Hey,
that they, yeah,
We're okay. I love to be caught in the crossfire.
I love
there, yeah.
Jance. We were out with him at Paul's Coffee's. Was his wedding? No, it was his wife's 50th.
right.
Yeah, it was his wife's 50th. Anyways, we had this whole thing planned out. It was really required. Koff did a great job. We had Barney Bentel, who's one of Koff's favorites,
Right.
come in, fly in, and surprise his wife there. And then all of a sudden you hear Jance coming through the woods. Hey, you had a cough. You have a big party and you don't invite me? And then Jance had the hair down to here the whole
Oh
bit.
yeah.
So him and I laughed about that. So of course Jance is always invited over to Koff's place.
Oh yeah,
He's
they're
he
good
doesn't
buddies
need an
from way
invite.
back.
You know what I mean?
The prototypical you see him before you hear him. Is
Oh yeah,
Brad
it was
Jansen.
great. He
Yeah.
goes, "What? I don't get invited to this party."
That's what I got to get. I'll give Paul a call and see. He's got to get a chance to rebut because Janny took him to task over the skates and how
particular he is.
The guy was a nutcase with skates, and you hear all the things he said about. Now again, they're good friends, but
Let's do a podcast.
I want
Let's
to
get Janny.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
a double. Yeah.
that would be fun.
Well, it'll be
have-
10 hours though.
I'd do my best to referee it. Rocket, once again, thanks so much for joining us. Love the stories. The time just absolutely flies by, and we're right in on schedule here. So for myself, once again, anything, by the way, plugs, you said you have your Instagram at Rocket Security is one way for people
Market
to get
security.
in touch
I just, I just do a couple of fun things out there, like when I have some guys with me, but we're not, it's just like golf courses and stuff like that,
Nice.
and it's just, I'm always looking for clients, obviously.
Perfect.
You know what I mean?
I'm working on a lot of the rocks. You want to get him back into the rock star business?
Oh, man.
That's trouble, eh? I'm working on a few things right now.
It's funny you say that because I've been called, because every tour is going out
Yes.
right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like everyone's going.
Making up for lost
So
time.
I got my guys in the U.S. that have been calling me and saying, hey, and I'm like,
Need some help?
oh, man. Going on the road for 3 months is like going on for 30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It takes
And
its
you
toll.
can't
but-
be with one person.
Well,
otherwise all
I
the other
can't. And I have to say to my players too, right? Like, I'm going to be gone for 3 months. That doesn't sit well.
That's fair.
Paul
That's
Marner
fair.
would be all over me. Paul Marner would lose it on me.
Oh, he's such a tame, easygoing guy.
love him.
Yeah,
He's one of my
we've
favorites.
Love him.
He's one of my favorites.
One day we'll get him on the podcast. He said he would have too many things to say about too many other people, so maybe he doesn't want to join us. But I think when he hears more podcasts like this, he'll
Just
be on board.
quickly though, before we go, it's like sometimes I've commented on someone's Twitter,
Yep.
and some guy, the comment back is, "Oh, I guess it's Paul's dad again, going on a different name."
That's amazing. I would do the same thing if someone were going after my kid. I would be joining in on there. Once again, Rocket, thank you so much for joining us at Rocket Security on Instagram. For Brian Aaronworth, president of Frameworth, and myself, Mikey Aaronworth, this is us signing off. Awesome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we made it to the end of yet another episode. Thanks again so much for joining us. You can find videos of all of our episodes on YouTube by searching the Sign Off Podcast. You can also follow us on Twitter at Frameworth Sport or Instagram at Frameworth Sports. And hey, if you're not sick of me yet, you can find me on Twitter over at Retrograde Mikey, or you can always find me embarrassing myself over on Instagram at Aaronworth. The Sign Off is a proud product of Fadoo Productions and Sad Styles Productions. Executive producers Mikey Aaronworth and Andrew Bascom. Until next week, this is Mikey Aaronworth signing off.
Furnished by Sad Styles Productions.
Get into it.